What's up, guys? This is Jrue Holiday, and you're listening to The Briefcase with Casey Holdahl.
Greetings, Blazer fans, and welcome to The Briefcase presented by Spirit Mountain Casino. Episode 196 of The Briefcase, presented by Spirit Mountain Casino. I am Casey Holdahl, and the Portland Trail Blazers have just returned from a 5-game trip with a 2-3 record, splitting the last 2 games of that trip. They come home for a 3-game homestand, which starts with a comfortable victory versus the Pacers Sunday night at Moda Center. Scoot Henderson bounces back in a big way after a tough road trip, and Deni Avdija returns after missing the last 6 games with a back issue on this edition of The Briefcase, presented by Spirit Mountain Casino. Well, while the last 2 performances of their 5-game road trip didn't necessarily result in the Blazers winning the trip like they wanted, 2 very good performances from the team at the end of that trip. I think probably the 2 best games for the Trailblazers at the end of that trip. They end up splitting those games, one versus the Grizzlies, which they win in Memphis, and then they fall to the Rockets in Houston in a game that they basically were outlegged in the fourth quarter, had a lead going into the fourth quarter, weren't able to hold on in that game. But the Trailblazers split those last 2 games to go 2-3 on that 5-game road trip. And after a couple of tough back-to-back losses, the Trailblazers got the first win of those last 2 games, thanks to the play of the vets to get back into the win column versus the Memphis Grizzlies Wednesday night. Jrue Holiday, Jerami Grant, and Robert Williams III combined to score 85 points to lead the Trailblazers to a 122-114 victory versus the Grizzlies in front of 14,661 fans at FedEx Forum Wednesday night. It was Jerami in the third, going 7-11 from the field and 2 of 5 from 3 for 16 points, along with 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal while playing every second of that quarter. And in the fourth quarter, it was Jrue Holiday who went 6 of 8 from the field and made all but one of his 5 3-point attempts in the fourth quarter to post a 16-point quarter. Portland would eventually shoot 61% from the field in the second half, 15 percentage points better than the Grizzlies, to come away with the 8-point win. Jrue Holiday tied his career high in that game and made 3-pointers with 35 points on 13 of 19 shooting from the field to go with 11 assists, 5 rebounds, and a steal in 32 minutes. Jrue Holiday was absolutely phenomenal throughout the entirety of that road trip. Jerami Grant went 11 from 19 from the field, 3 of 8 from 3, and 5 of 9 from the line for 30 points to go along with 9 rebounds, 4 assists, and a steal in 36 minutes. Robert Williams III, who just like Jrue Holiday had a very good road trip and has really been playing some great basketball as of late, posted a double-double in that game with 20 points, which was just one off his career high, on 9 of 12 shooting from the field to go with 11 rebounds while also blocking 3 shots in 24 minutes. Rob was forced into a little more duty in that game because Donovan Clingan got kicked out for an elbow in that game, was assessed a flagrant 2 and tossed in the first half of that game. Toumani Camara played 40 minutes in that game, posted 9 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, steal, and a block. As I mentioned, Donovan Clingan got 7 points, 9 rebounds, 4 blocks, and an assist in just 12 minutes before he was ejected. And Scoot Henderson got the start in that game as well, finished with 8 points, 3 assists, and a steal in 24 minutes. So the Trailblazers, with that win versus the Grizzlies, get to 2-2 on the trip with 1 game to play versus the Houston Rockets, the game you expect probably going to be the toughest game on the trip. Fortunately for the Trailblazers, they played well the first 3 quarters, could not hold on in the fourth quarter, end up losing that game 106-99 Friday night at the Toyota Center. And it really reminded me of the loss they had to the Timberwolves before they left on that road trip, which is where they played well. They had a very good chance in the fourth quarter, but were not able to get it done in the fourth, ended up faltering down the stretch. Blazers went into that fourth quarter versus the Rockets leading 82-77, and I think they were even up 85-77 at one point in time, but then they were outscored 29-17 in the fourth quarter, with the Rockets closing that game out on a 23-4 run to get the victory in that game. Really disappointing. A very good game for the Trailblazers. I thought they played well, still playing shorthanded in that one, but just were not able to do what they need to do in the fourth quarter to get that victory, which, at the end of a 5-game trip, you can kind of understand it, but still, those are the kind of games where if you could get that win versus a very good Rockets team that you'd already beaten twice at Moda Center, I think you feel really good about the way that trip went. Didn't end up that way, and I still think you feel okay about that trip. It would have been nice to get to at least 3-2 on the trip, but either way, the Trailblazers having a good performance in that game versus the Rockets, I think made you feel a little bit better about it, particularly after the way that those 2 games versus the Hornets and the Hawks went. Those were the other 2 losses on that trip. Definitely wouldn't say that those were good losses. I wouldn't say the loss to the Rockets was a good loss either, but at least they played well in that loss. And in that loss, Jerami Grant with 21 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals in 38 minutes. Jrue Holiday continued once again his very strong play, 20 points, 10 assists, 4 rebounds, and a steal in 37 minutes. Just a fantastic trip for Jrue Holiday, a guy who, after missing those 2 months, I think it took him a little bit of time to get back into the rhythm of things, but he has looked really good as of late and playing exactly the way you would expect a guy like Jrue Holiday to play at this point in time in the season. 18 points, 13 rebounds, and a block for Donovan Clingan. 6 points, 6 rebounds, 6 steals, and 2 assists for Twani Kamara. Unfortunately, Kevin Durant, Amen Thompson, and Alperen Şengün combined for 74 of Houston's 106 points to lead the Rockets in that game. Both Amen Thompson and Alperen Şengün really good in that game. Blazers really didn't have a whole lot of answers for either one of those guys. I thought Tamani actually did a pretty good job on Kevin Durant throughout the entirety of that game, but they just weren't able to slow down either Thompson or Şengün enough that they would need in order to get that win. And obviously, when you get outscored 23-4 to end the game, you're probably not going to win that game. So the Trailblazers finish that trip off 2-3, head back to Portland Friday night to prepare for a 3-game homestand, which started with the Pacers Sunday night. Well, after spending 10 days out on the road, it's nice to be back in Portland for at least a week before heading out for another 5-game road trip at the end of this week. A chance to catch up on a few things, get a few errands done, and a chance to head out to Spirit Mountain Casino, where the table games are about to get extreme. They now offer a 21+3 extreme, where big fun meets big pays through poker-style hands. Spirit Mountain Casino's $5 side bet progressive is now over $100,000 and counting. Could you be the lucky winner at Spirit Mountain Casino, Highway 18 in Grand Ronde? Elevate your game. Well, the old saying goes that the first game back from a long road trip is like the last game of the road trip or the most difficult game of the road trip. That was not the case for the Portland Trail Blazers Sunday night at Moda Center, returning to start a 3-game homestand that they got off to a great start with a 131-111 victory versus the Indiana Pacers Sunday night. The Blazers returned home late Friday night, and then they got right back to work on Sunday. Scoot Henderson, after having a bit of a rough road trip, Scoot playing definitely his best game of the season and arguably one of the best games of his career, finishing with 28 points, 6 assists, 3 rebounds, a steal, a block, and most importantly, no turnovers to help the Trailblazers beat the Pacers, as I mentioned, 131-111 in front of a crowd of 16,833 Sunday night at Moda Center. Great crowd at Moda Center Sunday night for Fire Night. Shout out to the Portland Fire. Trailblazers are now 31-34 overall and 17-15 at home this season. With the win, the Trailblazers remain in 10th place in the Western Conference and are 1 game behind the Clippers in 9th and 2 games behind the Warriors in 8th with 17 games to play. So still a chance for the Portland Trailblazers to move up if they can string some wins together. After a first quarter that featured 6 lead changes and 5 ties, the Blazers took the game over in the second half behind Scoot's performance. The 6'3 guard, who'd played in just 12 games this season after having that torn hamstring that stunted his 3rd season out of training camp, went 5 of 6 from the field, 1 of 2 from 3, and 2 of 2 from the line for 13 points, 4 assists, 2 rebounds, and a steal in just under 8 minutes in the second quarter. Behind Scoot's performance, Portland went on a 20-5 run late in the second and ultimately outscored the Pacers by 17 in the quarter to take a 69-52 lead into the half. The second half was mostly even, both teams scoring 31 points in the third quarter, and Portland outscoring Indiana by just 3 in the fourth quarter. So it was Henderson's effort in the second quarter that did more than enough to tilt the scales in the Trailblazers' favor Sunday night. Great game for the Trailblazers. Really needed that bounce back win after, again, not a tough loss in Houston, but you really need to come back and get this little 3-game homestand off to a great start, which they were able to do with that victory versus the Pacers. Jrue Holiday in that game also had a very nice night, 7 of 10 from the field, 5 of 8 from 3, to finish with 21 points, 3 assists, 3 rebounds, and a block in just 25 minutes. Jerami Grant also finished with 21 points to go with 2 rebounds, 2 steals, 2 blocks, and an assist in 32 minutes. I feel like Jerami's really done a good job of carrying some of that load with Deni Avdija out. Fortunately, Deni Avdija returned in that game versus the Pacers, his first game back after missing 6 games with that back injury. He had 18 points, 8 assists, 5 rebounds, 3 steals in 24 minutes. Things just run so much better with Deni Avdija out there. Another ball handler, another guy who can get to the rim, a really good rebounder for his size, a guy who can create. He drives and kicks. So to get Deni back out there, hopefully healthy and ready to go for this last month of the season, a very good sign. You know, I think a lot of us thought he might play at some point in time on that road trip. He didn't end up playing on that trip, and I think that's probably for the best. You know, I think that with Deni, you really need to make sure that he's going to be available for the rest of the season. He even talked about how that game versus the Pacers was the first time that he really felt good since basically kind of January when he first experienced that injury. He's been in and out of the lineup. He's missed some games here and there, has come back. He had that game where he came back versus the Suns, only played for a minute. And at that point in time, too, when you try to come back and you basically can only play a little bit and then you hurt yourself again, or really not even hurt yourself again, you were already hurt. You were trying to play through it and you just can't do that. At that point in time, you got to sit down and get right with it. And Deni was able to do that. And the Blazers, I'm sure they would have liked to have him on that trip. And, if Deni's available for those games, maybe they come up with another win, but I think it's much more important for the not only for the rest of the season, but just for the long term for this Trailblazers team that Deni is healthy. It's important not to rush your players back. Back injuries are a mystery; they can come and go. So really, the only thing that can help it is rest and recovery. And Deni even talked about not wanting to necessarily do anything differently, because that's when you also start having issues, is when you have an injury and then you overcompensate for it. And then you start having injuries in other parts of your body because you're trying to compensate for, in Deni's case, a back injury. Makes it really difficult to come back and feel confident about your body until you're fully healthy. So Deni really taking that time, sitting out those 6 games, getting a full 2 weeks off. I think if he's not able to be healthy now for the rest of the season, then you did everything you could, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like, injuries are going to happen. Guys are going to get injured. There's only so much you can do about it, but it really feels to me like they really went through the paces and took their time with that injury with Deni, and hopefully now he's able to come back and feel healthy and have maybe a good run of games here this week before we hit the road for a very important road trip for this team. As I mentioned, 5 games. Chance for the Trailblazers, if you look at their schedule right now, to maybe stack a few wins up. So getting Deni Avdija back out there increases their chance of doing that considerably, and it was really nice to see him out there on Sunday night. Rob Williams also had a very nice game in that one as well. 6 of 8 from the field, 12 points to go with 7 rebounds, 2 assists in just 20 minutes for Rob Williams. And again, I feel like Rob has played so well as of late, really kind of finding his groove. He looks comfortable out there. And I'm just really hoping that Rob's able to have a great run, because he absolutely deserves it. And it really changes the complexion of this team when he's able to be out there and just be a threat off the bench, backing up Donovan Clingan, really kind of giving them a little bit of a change of pace while also doing a lot of the same things that Donovan does. Just a really fun run that Rob's having right now, and I hope he's able to keep that up. Speaking of centers as well, in the end of that game versus the Pacers, as I mentioned maybe a couple weeks ago now, Blake Wesley and Young Hansen, you can tell that they've put in some time together, because every time they get in the game, like you can tell that Blake kind of understands Hansen's movements and the rhythm and kind of what he's looking to do. And they had a really fun play at the end of that game versus the Pacers. Blake actually getting a crossover and getting a guy on skates and the guy falling down, finding Hansen for a dunk, and then Blake just being super excited about the play, really kind of gassing Hansen up afterwards. So much so that I think Hansen was maybe even a little confused by it. Really great to see Blake have that enthusiasm. Blake Wesley getting back out there as well has really been a great thing for this team. Chris Murray also returned after a bout of illness in that game as well, but really fun to see that relationship between Hansen and Blake. And, especially for a guy like Hansen, he's not playing a ton, kind of in between the Blazers and the remix. And so to have a couple guys that he's really comfortable with on the Blazers roster, I think really kind of helps him feel comfortable and helps him perform in the minutes that he does get, which right now are pretty slim. So just a fun night at Moda Center, a fun return to Portland for this team. And again, a good way to get this little 3-game homestand off to a good start. They finished up this homestand by hosting the Hornets, one of the hottest teams in the NBA, Wednesday night, a team that they lost to in Charlotte on that last road trip. And that's really kind of the pivot game, I think, in this next couple weeks for the Trailblazers. They've got some games against some teams that are below them in the standings that have had a difficult time winning as of late. So as I mentioned, a chance to maybe stack together a few wins. But that Hornets team is playing some really good basketball right now. So if they're able to get that win on Wednesday versus the Hornets, then I think you feel really good about their prospects in this last month of the season. Then they host the Utah Jazz on Friday before, as I mentioned, heading out for a 5-game road trip back through the East Coast. I believe Philly, Brooklyn, Indiana, and then flying back. And I think we finished off with the Nuggets. And who was the last team on that trip? I try not to look too far ahead this point in time in the season because there's so much work to do for the individual games. But the other game on that trip is Minnesota, which is what I actually thought it was too. I should have trusted my gut on that one. I thought it ended with Minnesota Denver, which it does. So the Trailblazers with 3 games at home before heading back out for that extended road trip. And obviously that trip ends a lot more difficult than it starts. So the Trailblazers once again really need to try to take care of business in the games versus the teams that are around them in the standings, give themselves maybe a chance to maybe move up to maybe, 8th or 9th or 8th in that play-in race. I think those are realistic goals for the Trailblazers. Whether or not they get there, we will see. But that does seem like something this team is motivated and is playing for right now. And to have anything to kind of be enthusiastic about and a goal at this point in time in the season, that's a little bit of a change for this team over the last couple of years. So that's a great sign, and hopefully maybe a chance to, now that they got Deni back, now that Scoots, had a couple good games, or at least a very good game versus the Pacers, with Jrue and Rob and Jerami all playing really good basketball right now, Donovan as well. I think, if it's going to happen, I think now is the time, and it seems like they're set up well to do that. Now it's really on them to go out and get it done. And that's going to do it for this edition of The Briefcase. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, more editions throughout this week, more editions as we hit the road as well. We'll have another edition of the Blazers Balcony with Brooke Olzadam this week as well. So please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast to the Blazers Balcony and to The Briefcase. Until we talk to you next time, I am Casey Holdahl. Thank you so much to our folks at Spirit Mountain Casino. We appreciate the support. Go Blazers.